now. So good day, wonderful audience. Today I'm going to introduce to a warrior. She's Nakole Watson. She's a power woman and she's a movement in her own right. She's a suicide prevention superstar and she's working towards this mission from 2012. She also helps parents protect their babies and empower them with the power to speak up. And further links to her mission would be added below the video. So, hello, Nicole. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Good. So, Nicole, my first question to you is how did you start this mission and what was your motivation behind starting this great suicide prevention campaign and being the voice for this?
So I started kind of accidentally. I have attempted suicide multiple times. And one day I decided I wanted to share my story. And so I did. And in sharing my story, people started flocking to me and sharing their stories. And so then, like when somebody would be suicidal or, need help, people would always refer them to me. So then I was like, wait a minute, I could do this. And so I ended up, starting my company and things based on this accidental, everybody started coming to me for it. So I just started doing it.
Wow. And you just turned your pain to power. That's just, really, you turned it that 180 that everyone is, struggling to get in. So could you just describe more about this journey? Like what drove you to have such thoughts? And was it from the society or was it something internal? What was it like? If you want.
Just the pressure of trying to fit in with everybody, trying to be what everybody wants you to be. Being Black in America has its own problems,
Yes.
and just dealing with the racism, bullying, just so many things. And I think for me, I just want a way out of it because I'm like, it isn't getting better. Nothing is helping me to manage this life anymore. And at this point, I don't see a point in doing this. I felt like I was a burden to people. I was surrounded by a lot of people who considered me to be a problem child. I was just a typical teenager. I wasn't, out there, but, and just being around people who really didn't understand me, who grew up with kind of like an old school background. So they didn't understand the problems I was facing. And so I just never wanted to be here. I got diagnosed with major depression when I was 23. And so, before then, I didn't know that I had like something, chemically going on with my brain. But yeah, it was everything. I just hated life.
I know this issue, because as I'm following the movement as well of Black Lives Matters, and my friends back in US, when they go for the first time, they're like, we think so much good about this country and it's projected like everything is good, everything is perfect. But what happens when something is really wrong? What about the people, because it's all about the people. You cannot make them feel unwanted or not fitting in. And I also see that from the society, it's like, it's passed on to your family. Okay, stay away, don't mix with them, don't play with this person, blah, blah. It kind of actually happened to me personally. So, and now that I'm doing very well in my career, and when people are actually facing real life problems, I see those people come back to me. But I have decided, for my own mental health, and I believe that, what, they are not part of my journey for a reason. It's okay, they are wishing me well, I also wish them well. I have this policy of no hard feelings because it really helps no one. So but I see this, you are there in a different country, but I experienced this in my own community. So that was even more shocking. So I sometimes, for me, the question is, why do we do this? Like, why can't we just, happily coexist, right?
So I think it has a lot to do with indoctrination. People are indoctrinated to think evil of something they don't understand or something that's not like them. And instead of increasing your mental capacity to be able to embrace things that are different, you reject them because then you don't have to do the work of understanding them or understanding how what you do has negatively impacted them or the
Mm.
privilege you have that they don't have. And all of those things are difficult, for people to really sit with.
Digest.
And so instead of sitting with the fact that I may have a privilege inherent to me that you don't have, I demonize you and say, well, you just don't work hard enough. You're just lazy. You're just
Oh
this.
God.
You're just that. Because then I feel better about me. And I don't have to do the work to break down the things in my head that cause me to think I'm better than you to begin with.
Exactly. You put it like perfectly. So my next question to you is, so I mean, what are the top 10 signs, or like not 10, just the top signs of a person having, or a bad mental health, or really going through the motions of life? Like most of the time, many people are really uneducated. And so if they want to know, for example, my friend or colleague or someone in my neighborhood has a problem. So how do
Mm-hmm.
I come to know that? Because people don't
I
talk.
mean,
Many people become introverted and they take it in. They don't put it out like you and me extroverts. So even I went through the phase of introversion. Don't talk to anyone. Don't say it.
mm-hmm,
But it just increases our problem.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would say number one is relationships. When you're in relationship with people, you know when something's different. You know when they normally say good morning, and in this particular day they say good morning. Like in relationship with people when things are different. So that's the first thing. The second thing is isolation. People who
Mm.
all of a sudden don't want to be bothered. People who start, talking about the end of their life, like I don't care, I'm gonna die anyway, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And even if you see somebody who starts to feel hopeless or who starts to say, things that indicate that they're hopeless. And then another thing that a lot of people don't really address is grief, because grief can trigger suicidal ideation. So if
Yes.
you are, around somebody who's going through the grief process, it's important to give them space that they need to grieve, but it's also important to check in with them and just make sure
Thank
that they're
you.
not drowning in it, because a lot of times they have this, I want to go where my mama is. I want to go where my daddy is. My so and so is not here. I don't want to be here. And so I always keep a check on people when they're going through grief.
Mhm. Yes, that's the grief is the major issue that the
Mm-hmm.
society usually tries to sweep it under the rugs. And this is
Yeah.
something, or if some abuse has happened with someone, they don't speak up. They really don't. And
Right.
if it is from someone from the higher, your authority and something like that, and then your job
Mm-hmm.
is on the line, dude, you're
Yep.
like, you don't know what to do. Who should I go to?
Exactly.
Who do I go?
Right.
I
Yep.
can't report my boss because he is this big influencer, because I know this part that is true here in this part of the world, that if you are changing your companies too many times, even if like you got a better offer and they put you in a certain blacklist. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if your name is on that list, you really won't get a job, no matter how hard you
Yep.
try. Okay, some people are really crossed the lines in terms of maybe dwindling the finances and doing um, a lot of bullshit. Okay, but what if somebody wants to get even with you? So
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes every person have their perspective, and sometimes you don't know whom to trust. So at that case, no one can. There is this part of the people part. It's very difficult to judge who is right, because you are just a person from standing at a neutral point hearing both the sides, and you don't know who is right. Every person
Exactly.
sounds very convincing. So I
Yep.
feel, yeah, that's also an issue. Okay, so my next question to you is, how did you, like, okay, that is clear how you start the project. That was from self-initiative, but how do you get adequate help, or do you try to raise awareness regarding this now that you're a company yourself? I mean, How does it work in the US?
I do raise awareness as far as help goes. Being in the digital space has become increasingly hard because algorithms don't really like content about suicide. And to keep it
Mm.
real, algorithms are biased against people of
Exactly,
color.
exactly,
So
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. So a non-POC person could post the same thing I post. Their post is going to be favored. And people don't believe that, but it's been scientifically
it's
proven.
true. It's true. It's true. I know
Yeah.
this because there is this bright scientist in Google. She was also from the Black community. I think her name was Tamara, if I'm not wrong. I don't remember. I read it long back. And she was the one who wanted to head the ethical community
Mm-hmm.
against biases of Google and all these big tech giants because they're literally controlling governments. Like they are
Mm-hmm.
acting like the, giant big tech mafia. Really,
Yep.
and you can't do anything because you get all automated rejections. You
Yep.
for me, you go through strings and strings of unending interviews, and towards the end, you just get a shitty automated reply. Oh, we got
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't even give them a proper feedback, or the person is left with a big question mark. And this woman who was leading the movement was out of Google because she was sick. Yeah, the algorithms are biased. A lot of porn content, a lot of child harassment against men, women, animals, everything is put out. They filter it out for sure, but why don't you catch the perpetrators, or why don't you do something about it when you know that links are there in you? What are the big tech giants doing? Nothing. So wouldn't it cause mental health issues to these victims? Of course. And these algorithms are always like black and white, okay, but all of us live in the gray area. What about that?
Yep.
So yeah, there is literally, if you try to put a discussion out there, they cut it off. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like, hey, where do people like us go? Where do the minorities, or you call them anything, the people who are not favored, where do you go? Is my
Right.
question. And
Yep.
if we ask these tough questions, critical questions, because that's what any schooling system will teach you. You have to critically ask. You have to ask for your rights, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really happen. So, I mean, this is a problem of the society, I believe. And where do you
Mm-hmm.
think it's leading us if it's not addressed? And if it's swept under the rug, what do you think? Will we have a snowball effect of more mental health problems? And what will happen? Like, how do you see the worst case scenario? Like, that's how I
Yeah,
imagine.
I think there will be a snowball effect. I think there will be more people who are struggling. And I also think that people are going to go back to organizing offline. So people are going to go back to conference calls and, actual meetings and things like that, because the truth still has to be told and the word still has to get out. So I think we are going to have to figure out more ways to do it. And I think on social media, we're going to see more bullying and harassment and things
Mm,
like that, because algorithms tend to favor that type of content because it gets
mm,
more engagement.
okay. Mm. For the likes. Yeah, I know. I see people literally changing their behavior and way of life just to get
Yep.
some likes,
Mm-hmm.
just for that 2 minute fame, which no one will even remember. Like what is happening. Okay.
Exactly.
So, can you shed some more light on the Black Lives Matter movement and what has the government done towards it? Or, because I really don't get much information here because a lot of things are uh, protected, and in the name of this protection, I don't get the real news. There's just a lot of misinformation out there. So,
So Black Lives Matter, I'm not talking about the organization, but the
mm,
actual movement of Black Lives
movement.
Matter
Yeah.
came into being because Black people are brutalized in America more than any demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And laws are passed to protect other communities quicker than us. So when
Oh my
COVID
God.
happened and Asian people were being targeted, the government passed a whole bill about Asian hate, and Asian hate is now a hate crime. But there's no hate crime bill for Black people. There's
Oh my
no
God.
bill that keeps Black people from being lynched. There's no bill that says that hating Black people is a specific hate crime like the one for Asian people. Um, we go through a lot of voter suppression in America where things are rigged. And when I say rigged, like districts are redrawn and things are done, voting machines are taken out of predominantly Black areas. So many things are done to suppress our vote because when
Oh my God.
we vote for the candidate that the people who control everything don't want us to vote for. And so
Exactly.
so in American history, we are the least protected. Native Americans were brutalized by America, but Native Americans are protected. They have their own reservation. They have laws that keep us out of the places that they go because they are protected. Now they still have disparities, they still have,
Mm.
all of that, but there are laws in place to protect them.
Yes.
When it comes to Black people, we have had to fight just to be treated like human beings. And though history would make you think by showing all the black and white pictures that it happened long ago, all of those
Mhm.
black and white pictures you see of the civil rights movement, my
Mhm.
mother was alive and my mother is not even 60 years old. So it wasn't a long time ago. They
Yeah.
just want to make it seem like it was a long time ago. And so Black Lives Matter is all about showing up and letting the government know like we're not going anywhere. And we
Exactly.
built this country with our labor, our forced slave labor. You're not going to continue to brutalize us and to allow people to brutalize us while we still pay taxes. We contribute to this society.
Mm.
We are some of the top spenders in America. Like, you're not going to do this to us. And so that's what Black Lives Matter really is about.
Yeah, thank you for shedding the light because, no one really covers it the way, person from the movement would say. And, things are so bloody censored. And by the time you get the information, that there's something wrong,
Yep.
subconsciously, something is wrong, something is happening. But, what can I do as a concerned person? Because you wouldn't think like that. You think America is very developed, and then when you go to the ground reality and you see so many discrepancies, my head is just puzzled. Like, okay, I usually see people telling me, why are you so concerned? I'm like, it's just, I'm a human being. Okay, I cannot just see discrimination right in 2021. Really? Like, why are we not talking about it? We all talking about careers, lives, but what about, okay, unless people are then awake when something happens to them, then they want to make it a movement or they want to make it something. But I feel like if something is really going on, you should really participate, join in it, and at least hear the people, because they are saying the truth. They are trying to be suppressed. So I think of it from that point of view. I think of it like, how can I minimize my bias and see the truth? Because there is a lot of truth here. So that was my reason of getting out there and yeah, spreading as much as awareness as I can. So another question for you is, why do you think the government policies are so lax, and do you think there is not enough representation in these houses? Or I see the Latin American community still going out there and other communities, but I know there are many people from the Black community who are representing. But how is this, why isn't it translating to something concrete? Like, just, and can't there be one law that is like, hey, everyone is a human and every community should be respected and given equal dignity, treated with equal dignity? Why can't that happen? So many.
I mean, you have to ask you have to ask the people in power for real. But I think it's just because racism is embedded in the fabric of America. America was built on racism. America was built on
Hmm.
people of a certain descent
Yes, yes.
seeing
I think the internet connection is a bit unstable, but let me just check.
It's just like if you build a company based on bowling, even if you change the company to be a company about tennis, if there's bowling in the concrete in the parking lot, and if there's bowling etched in the walls, and if there's bowling balls etched in the staircases, even though you now say that it's a tennis company, the bowling is etched in the walls. So when people come into the building, they're going to see bowling because bowling is still there. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so because racism is still here, and because it's still a very prevalent thing, and because it's literally the foundation of how America came to be what it is, to admit that, and you would have to admit that the majority of your success came from oppression and slavery, to then go and make a law that would make us all the same. And a lot of people who are in power do not want to admit that they are in power because of an unjust system. They want to believe that they are in power because of their hard work and themselves and what they did, and negate and ignore the fact that if it were not for the oppression of marginalized people, you wouldn't have any power. And so people aren't willing to tell the truth about that.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. So, I mean, what according to you now should, people, government, and the society do collectively to, like, even, at least we can reduce this? Or do you think that the new government, the way they promise with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, do you think they will bring the changes that they have promised, or are they working towards their initiative? No.
No, I don't believe any government can bring
Mm.
a change in a system that is created to do what it does. No matter who runs the machine is the same machine. It's still going to do what it was created to do. So unless
Mhm.
the machine is redone and
Right.
restructured to do something else, a different person operating the machine is still going to produce a tire if the machine makes tires. It may be a better tire that doesn't
Mm.
wear out as quickly, but it's still a tire. And so I don't depend on any government official, and I don't have any faith that any government official can reform this system, because I don't think the system can be reformed. It just is what it is. I think it can be made better, but I don't have any faith that I'm gonna look 4 years from now and be like, oh my God, everybody's equal now. Oh my goodness. No, I don't even think that in my lifetime, unless we have like a war or something catastrophic happens, I don't even think in my lifetime there will be equality.
Oh,
I just
okay.
don't.
Yeah, just seems
Because
like.
we're trending in the opposite direction. The world today is more racist than the world I grew up in. Like
Okay.
I see more racism, and maybe it's just because we have social media, but I see more racism now than I saw 5 years ago.
No, I mean,
So,
from, yeah, the tech point of view, it's just because the algorithms are based on attention and
mhm,
more likes and dislikes, and it's proven scientifically that a bad content get more likes than
yep,
something good. Like, and I
yep,
see it all the time, even when I conduct clubhouse sessions. I talk
mhm,
about mental health, I talk about narcissism, or I talk about safe and inclusive AI. Like, that's the thing that I'm trying to promote. Or, now that AI is entering healthcare, they will have all our data.
yep,
Maybe you had some vaccine, or you didn't have it, and then what? The entire history of a person. And as algorithms are getting better, they can predict quite a lot of things. And I'll tell you what happens in India. Like, people are so much on the face stuff that because of maybe I look like this, they would automatically suggest, hey, why don't you just try this lipstick or this. I'm like, hello, I will do it when I want to go out, or when I feel like I should. In a day to day, I don't feel the need. Why should I do it to impress someone? I am okay
right,
with the way I look. And I
mhm,
believe that I also see that if I'm educated and I worked hard to be where I am, they find the families find it very threatening or things like, I mean, these are the biases that I have come across. which I used to hear this from educated people, like, in different communities, but as just in general against women having this. But it is becoming more and more, I mean, more and more evident that the hidden biases of people is like just now more exposed. And these algorithms are designed that way. They are not designed for equality. They're just yeah, hit like, click, and blah blah blah. So you are just fed like, the news tabloid is curated for me a certain way, curated for you a certain way, curated for someone else another way. So then everyone's perception is different. They want to believe what is stuck in their stupid head instead of taking the time to little bit reflect, and which every person should be doing. Reflect and little bit participate in the issue. Like, hey, for example, your kids and my kids are maybe going to a kindergarten, and there is a kid from the, let's say, white community. So if their parents don't educate them, what this was an issue, and make it okay for these kids to talk about. But even here I see that, if you are of a certain skin color, they start teasing you from childhood. And I know personally many families leaving these places and going back to wherever they were. They come for a few years, because of course money is tight and everybody wants a better. It's natural to want progress, to be a better off than what your previous generations were. But when your and my communities have faced oppression for years and years and years, which now at least in India is being discussed, like I do hear those conversations that oppression was there, the language was changed, people were forced to learn English, people were forced to give up their identity, and they made it very normalized, maybe in the name of religion. It was just basically land grabbing and changing the laws according to it, so that a certain group always is harnessing a lot of money. And then money speaks. You just throw money at a problem, and then you can just swing it anyway, like the way Trump was doing it with the elections or whatever. So I just feel like uh, we are just circling around the problem. There is like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I just want maybe a bit of progress, and I don't think that is too much to ask, like, as a person who thinks consciously. So this is always what I think about. Yeah, so I'm just a little bit saddened to hear that you really feel that you won't see a change even in your lifetime. I hope that maybe from our talk, maybe people realize that this is a real issue, and maybe it becomes, I don't know, people think about it and reflect on it, because that's my only goal. Like, people are talking about it, it affects people in their day-to-day lives. And yeah, I try to stay away from negativity, but self-isolation and staying away from it is really not the right way to go about this. You have to go out, you have to speak up, and I think that really takes courage for anyone to. Yes. Also, now we are almost towards the end of our questions. So I really hope I'm trying to raise voice for your mission. It's a great mission, according to me. And
Thank you.
yeah, I believe that such things should be highlighted more often. I don't really care about the algorithms, because I feel like when I start something of my own, I would definitely highlight these things more. That I want to make it a table topic, that you can talk about it if something is wrong. At least, at times, Nicole, I have seen people just want to be heard.
Yeah.
That itself is like the healing process is beginning there. People just want to be heard. I don't know how they muster so much hatred, because there is enough for everyone. I believe Mother Earth is so nourishing and giving. She is giving to everyone. We need to take care of our planet, we need to
Mm-hmm.
take care of everything. So there is sufficient for everyone. It's not like a certain group has a lot of things and they just want to hoard more and more, instead of having a decentralized system which helps everyone. It's like, at least in Europe, I see that people of my race do get the chance, and even from the Black community. So I have seen positive examples here. So I'm a bit more optimistic than what I hear in the US, because actually it was my first country of choice to go to before coming here. So yeah, that is just one small message that I can give. And thank you so much for your time. And yes,
Thank
everyone,
you.
please support Nicole's mission. And yes, would you like to say any last closing words?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Have a good day. And
You
yeah,
too.
and I wish a lot of success to your mission, and I'm supporting you for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.